Yes, sir. New episode. But this episode is not just a new episode, it's also a new version of a show. So shouts to Graham for enjoying in episode one. This is the first episode of Bishop and Juan getting together, living real life through cryptocurrency. For instance, we did a live version of this audio on Tuesday on vvor.xyz. Vvor is a YouTube style, Twitch style streaming platform that's built on the Kaspa network. So all interactions and transactions on the network support the block DAG for Kaspa, which is fantastic. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to live real life on the Kaspa Standard and being able to bring content to the Kaspa block DAG will only help secure the value in which that cryptocurrency is all about. So we believe in it, and that's where the essence of this show came from. And the idea, like I said, is to just bring real world to cryptocurrency instead of the other way around, where now everyone's trying to bring cryptocurrency into the real world. And as you see, things get kind of convoluted when it comes to governments getting involved in big business and things like that. We're trying to go the other way. We're trying to step away from centralization, and that's why this particular show is going to be broadcast live on Vvor on Tuesdays, shooting for 11:30 every Tuesday. But stay tuned to our Twitter accounts. I'm at TW Takes Podcast. He's at GlitchIN888, and we'll be posting to let you know when we are going live. But that's the plan, to go live every Tuesday around 11:30, and we'll see you there. I'll upload the audio to this podcast feed for now on, and until we figure out what it's going to be called. But give us some feedback. Let us know what you think. Give us some titles for names, all that good shit. All right. So tune into the episode and let us know what you think. Oh yeah, hit that music.
Turn it up. You know I'ma bring the pain. It's Bishop, bitch. I stay up buck like you call Giannis' name. You don't like it? Well, fuck it, you don't have to listen. I'm speaking facts when I talk, I know it's something different. I'm in the first state, crumbing like I'm first place. I talk that terrible shit, but you got worse takes. I got no anger for haters, that shit don't even matter. Cause when I finish the show, I'll grab some wine after. So let me get on this mic and make your brain freeze. I'ma do it my way so all the lames leave. It's just me, you know I'm careful of fakes. So sit back and listen while I spit my terrible takes. Yo, bitch, you ever heard?
And then I will switch us to live. You ready, brother?
Ready. Let's do it.
All right, we're there. And then what I do, take it out of studio mode. Oh, shit, here we go. Now, that is just a sentiment from the TW Takes podcast. Any download listeners to the audio version, that's how I start every show. But this is not your traditional Terrible Wrestling Takes podcast. No. This is myself, Bishop. I go by Bishop. Name's Matt. In the podcast space, it's just stuck, and that's where we are. What I have today is not my guest. No, this is my partner. This is my my energetic brother through the Kaspa community. I call him Pastor Juan. It's not the only time he's heard that name, but Pastor Juan, welcome again to us collabing, but I think now in a more universal, energetic way, where we're on a path together here. So whatever this show turns out to be, let's call it for today. Bishop and Juan get together and figure this shit out. How you doing, brother?
I love it, brother. I love it. Yeah, happy to be here, man. Happy to be doing this with you. And, this goes back to that initial conversation that we had on the TW Takes podcast, right? But unfortunately, we weren't able to have our conversation uploaded. We concluded that it was a conversation meant for us, and it was a beautiful conversation, man. I appreciated the feedback that I got from you right after that, or a week after, and I've mentioned it on Spaces and in the Kaspa community that it was one of the best messages I got, man. So I'm happy to be doing this. I think it's very aligned with where things are in life and what the world needs. That's where I've always aligned myself, right? So that's how I look at things, and when I want to keep that going, brother. So yeah, happy to be here, happy to do this, and happy to dance in this conversation, see where it leads us.
Yeah, for sure. We talked briefly, well, actually not briefly at all. We had like almost a 2-hour conversation last week on how are we going to get. Actually,
I definitely knew. I had a boss for a brief period of time said, anytime I ask someone how they're doing and they don't ask me how I'm doing, like we're not having a conversation next time. So I knew when I called you or we had our call last Thursday, the last thing I wanted to talk about was today, right? I at least wanted to talk about you, see what's up with you, because as much as we know each other, we don't know each other. So, for frame of reference for those listening and have you, we're a few years apart, but we have children around the similar age. Both boys, both knuckleheads. That goes for the parent and the child. But we just vibe, man. And I think when you find people who can inspire your motivation or inspire your thought process, and they don't have to, be the guiding light for your entire life, right? You don't have to be my fairy godmother, but there's, as you've said during our conversations, you get just as much out as I do. And I think that's where, when you meet so much resistance in your life, when you just want to have a conversation, that when you are able to have a conversation, no matter what it's about, you can feel something somewhere. And I think that's the purpose of having this discussion live on VBOR, live on the Kaspa Standard, that we're going to now take this energy and apply it to real world situations, because in all walks of life, there's resistance. We're cutting that resistance and trying to then move forward in a direction that meets with what a new standard may look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's when we've talked offline, and what I get excited about is, we initially had that conversation and it was about wrestling. And for me, I haven't followed wrestling at all over the past 20 years, but it's another foundational piece for me. And it was really cool to have those conversations that I got to share with you. And again, finding out that we're very similar in age, but like when Hulk Hogan passed away here recently, and that hit me. That was like losing. We were talking about Dogs Here Off one too, but it was that he's an iconic piece of history, right? And so many kids that grew up in our era can relate, whether you're a wrestling fan or not. It's like, who doesn't know who Hulk Hogan is, right?
Right.
And yeah, I think this platform, we're on VBOR here, and it's powered by Kaspa. And obviously that being what initially brought us together, I just think that there's all these links into vibing in the world in a completely different way that people aren't aware of. And, this being a platform that isn't mainstream or well-known just yet, and being where we both are in our lives. And I've shared this with you, bro. I think that I'm simply a mirror. And that's why it's really easy to relate to people from no matter where they are in their lives. So I love organic conversations that where there is give and take, right? Where there's reciprocity. That's a huge thing, and I think that's missing. A lot of the content out there is scripted. I can feel it when you're listening to it. It's like it's very scripted, and there needs to be more authenticity, more transparency behind everything, behind absolutely everything. And I think this platform, and especially how it's set up, is a beautiful, beautiful foundational piece to take a look at how we can do things better and differently, and have it reciprocate and just help anybody involved with it. So yeah, man, this is exciting.
Yeah, I completely agree. And so my show is called the Terrible Wrestling Takes Podcast. TW Takes Podcast is what I want to be the legacy of what moves forward, right? TW takes on movies, TW takes on sports, TW takes on whatever, right? Because I feel like it's a good flow. But part of calling it the Terrible Wrestling Takes Podcast, and why I even started, was just that. Everyone wanted to talk shit all the time, right? So if I talk shit on me first, then we're at a moment of conversation, right? You can't put me down. I'm already down. I have the most terrible wrestling takes. And the irony beyond that is that it has nothing to do with the take. It has everything to do with the conversation. So, and we've experienced this in the crypto world, right? Bitcoin and everything else is an altcoin or a shitcoin. And, that's the WWE to the AEWs and the TNAs and the NWAs. Like, there's other wrestling promotions all the time. There's other cryptos all the time. But where is the truth in quality and execution and staying power and all those things, right? Is the biggest always the best? Is the alternative what you should be looking at moving forward? And the truth of the matter is, whether it's the biggest of all time or whether it's the just starting out, you have to start with truth. and then develop conversation. And if like, so WWE right now, you say you haven't watched in 20 years. Well, if you remember CM Punk, guess what? He's a champion again. If you remember John Cena, guess what? He's having his retirement tour. Everyone that you watched in the 90s, their children are wrestling now, right? Rikishi has three children wrestling right now, right? And it's still there for nostalgia, but part of what's happening with WWE right now is similar to Bitcoin, is it's so big that it's lost its not moral, but its foundation, right? WWE was a place where you take your family and your kids see superheroes, and those superheroes are flawed but infallible, right? Like this, you still want them to go and go and go, and that pageantry is kind of lost because they are so marketing centric. Where it's like for instance, WrestleMania is going to be in Vegas for the second year in a row, after they already booked New Orleans. So they canceled New Orleans to go back to Vegas because they made so much money last year, right? Wow. And it's November. I believe the teasers for the WrestleMania promotion in April started in October. And now they're launching full-on commercials in November for WrestleMania in April. They have Survivor Series coming up in November and Royal Rumble coming up in January, which are considered Big Four pay-per-views, at least to the fans, right? And if they're not going to treat it as Big Four, why would we? They've lost that foundation, right? And we've seen that a lot with Bitcoin right now, where its fallibility is why the number's going down, and no one wants to be honest about that. But I'll sit on the Terrible Wrestling Takes podcast all day and talk shit on everyone that has that fallibility, because without being called on your fallibility, you'll never improve. You'll never improve,
That's the truth. That's interesting. You bring up Survivor Series. I remember being so into it. Survivor Series, Royal Rumble. Yeah, man, it'll be interesting to get your takes and find out what's going on in there. Probably catch up on a little bit of it over the next, few months and weeks, and it'd be cool to see what's there.
Maybe we'll do a watch along one day.
Yeah, maybe.
Why not, right?
Yeah, I shared this with you, and I think it's relevant to why we're having these conversations and how I see everything as just linked, right? Where, I built a business and really gave my time, energy, effort, gave everything to building this business. And I built it online. Most of it was sitting at my laptop. I'm really good at seeing systems and how things play out, and then taking things apart and putting them back together. And I was able to have some success with that. But what I realized in this past year and a half, so for me, really diving into and studying money and then coming across Bitcoin and Kaspa is where so many people are on this hamster wheel where they're just like, okay, we got to be serious, and it's about working. So many people are on this 9 to 5 where they got to go out and work. And I remember being in that energy and almost not paying attention to sports or the things that actually brought me some joy, the things that Juan at 9, 10 years old would dream about. It had nothing to do with making money, had nothing to do with any of that. It was always about, your own hero's journey, right? I think that's why I related to wrestling really early on in my life. And it had so much to do with, oh my God, the Ultimate Warrior, look at his muscles. Like, I want to be like that. And I thought Bret the Hitman Hart was so cool with this Scorpion Deathlock, I think is what it was called.
Well, so Sting called it the Scorpion Deathlock, and Bret Hart called it the Sharpshooter.
The Sharpshooter, that's right.
Yeah. Both cool names, though. Both cool names.
Yeah, I shared this with you before. And I remember being 8, 9 years old. My father was in the military. We were stationed in Panama. I remember getting the WWF magazines and ordering the Bret the Hitman Hart shades.
Nice.
I remember it was supposed to take like 6 to 8 weeks, and it just never got to me. I remember ordering. So I later learned it's really hard to get things to Panama. But we were on an army base, and it was still tough to get those glasses. But I remember that being a very distinct memory for me. And again, so for me, I've always been somewhat of a dreamer and a delusional dreamer in terms of what I could see myself accomplishing. And I wanted to be a wrestler. I remember sharing that with my mom. I have 2 younger brothers, and she would see what I would do with my brothers, like putting them in pain. They definitely didn't want to wrestle me, but I'd make them, right? Being the older bully brother that I am. And it was, eventually that evolved into football. And then that took me to a whole nother level of imagining what I could be. And I was a pretty heavy set kid, pretty large, and you know, to the point where I thought throwing a football was always very natural for me. But I was a big kid and slow twitch, not fast. And I remember going out for flag football in Panama when I was 8 or 9. And I was like, I want to be the quarterback. And they're like, yeah, no, there's this other kid. I remember his name now. His name is Joel. They're like, oh, this other kid's going to play the quarterback. But we'll have you on the line. And I ended up playing center. I was a center. But in my mind, I was like, but one day I'm going to be a quarterback. I never gave up on that. But yeah, I started off as a center, and then, you know, leading into high school. And again, kids are such a great example of the way we should be living, but then we're supposed to grow up and take shit really serious. And what I have found being able to save my energy and sound money, Bitcoin initially, then actually today, I don't know if you saw I did. You saw it. So today I woke up and I'm in this energy of, okay, what do I need to do today? How do I need to do it? But not thinking too far past that. It's just, okay, I've been fortunate and blessed, have everything that I need. I'm not in this position of like, oh man, you know, what am I going to do? I'm really practicing presence more than ever. And that led to me fully allocating to Kaspa this morning, especially after seeing the dip in the market. And again, I don't think I'm able to do that without sacrificing as much as I did, having to make money in that system that really extracts from people. So I'm getting back in touch with my roots, and it's pretty interesting how that plays out. And it's like I'm able to be at 44 years old, able to be in that energy of the dreamer and wanting to accomplish these things that just bring me joy, right? And a big part of that is sports, and touching on the wrestling thing. And I love sports. And there was a time where I was like, oh, I'm too busy. I can't be looking at that. That's grown. You know, I'm a grown up. I gotta go and do all this. And no, I really do think it's really about encompassing all of it and finding out, you know, bringing yourself that joy. So I don't think I'm never gonna deny 10-year-old, 9-year-old Juan ever again. I know that to the core of my being. And I think that's super important. So that's why this all ties in together, and having a platform like this, where it's not a centralized platform like a YouTube, like any of the other ones that are out there, right? Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with any of those. This is just different. So it's just like you're gonna get a different energy over here with how things are run and how we're doing things.
For sure, and you touched on a lot of great points, and specifically when the Vivor team. I don't want to say they came to me like I'm something special, but I also don't want to deny myself of being special.
You are.
But
you are
thank
special.
you, brother. Thank you, brother. But no, John from the Vivor Marketing, he reached out to me because he saw my interest in Kaspa. And in talking with all those guys, I wrote their names down. Alberto, Andrew, Jonathan. And then that's where I met Enkid. He is awesome. He puts out some of the most detailed content of all time. I get so lost in listening to his stuff. I gotta watch it like 3 or 4 times. But anyway, meeting all those guys, I just saw this opportunity as like, yeah, let's get in the ground floor of YouTube on blockchain, which actually is blockdag, but let's call it chain for the sake of everyone understanding what it is. Like, everything lives within the ecosystem of what was created. And if you can do that and find yourself being the Barstool Sports of this new internet, then why wouldn't we take that opportunity? Because like you said, being that kid, that 9-year-old, 10-year-old, I used to, so my parents used to do the betting cards. They used to do the football teaser tickets, right? When it was at-home bookies. So like the at-home bookies would get the teaser card, you'd rip off the bottom, and you select your numbers of what you wanted to do. Now casinos do them everywhere. My parents used to do that in like the early 90s. I would play like Madden 94, and when the teams would come up, I would make my own teaser card and give it to my mom, right? Because like I always wanted to be in sports. And like 5 years ago, Nickelodeon joined CBS to do Slime Time for football, and I was like, I would have crushed this. 8-year-old me, 9-year-old me would have crushed this. Being an analyst for football, because I used to talk. So my parents split up when I was younger, and my mom was a bartender in New York, and it was at my uncle's sports bar. So when Sundays was drop-offs, so whether I was getting picked up or dropped off, it was Sunday at the sports bar. I'm talking with all my mom's friends about sports.
Really?
Are you kidding me? I was like, I vividly, there was a 49er fan and a San Diego fan that like I was in the middle of, like talking Super Bowl on who's going to win back then. This is '94.
I remember
Like,
that's
yeah,
young.
like, I'm
I
telling
was a
you,
49ers fan growing up. I
yeah.
think I don't know if I told you that. But
No,
I
because
knew
you're a
that
Bucks
Super Bowl.
fan now,
Yeah.
but no, that like so, but understanding like who Junior Seau was and Stan Humphries and like knowing Natron Means was the running back then. Like,
Means, he was
yeah,
funny,
I was all about all of that. Like
Wow.
I was so in love with sports as a kid. Probably because the home was so broken that you are looking for those heroes. You are looking for that. How can, if my parents react so strong to this TV, how can I do that, right? That's the story of a lot of comedians. Oh, well, I heard my dad laugh when I was a kid and I just wanted to make him laugh, right? But that never leaves you when you grow up, because that's part of your own feeling now, right? Like you want to feel that adulation watching sports. And I'm lucky enough, Packers fan, Yankees fan. I've seen a ton of World Series. I've seen 2 Super Bowls as fandom. So like I'm good. Like I'm not going to complain. So like for instance, Packers play the Carolina Panthers this weekend, lost on a field goal, and it's heartbreaking because you're watching. But then I've watched sports so in depth as a kid. The entire game, I just go, well, we shouldn't win this game. So when you don't, you're actually okay when you lose. And then so Packers win the Super Bowl in 2010. In 2011, they go 15-1, and the entire year I'm going, well, yeah, the offense is so good that the defense can't even understand. Like the defense has no work to do. If that defense gets tested, we're screwed. Lose to the Giants first round of the playoffs. Well, second round because you had the bye, but still, like first game of the playoffs, you lose. So like being able to watch and understand sports, it does take that sting away, but you can still have so much fun just sitting back and enjoying. And I think part of what I would like to do on VVOR, because again, we don't necessarily know what we're doing, as far as, but we know that we're having the conversation. But I think having some type of some sports show would be necessary. Oh, we got a tip, 5 casts from Galone, LFG, Bishop and Juan fellas, keep rocking. Thank you, Galone. Word.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man.
So, but that childlike enthusiasm, I'm glad that you got it back, when we did our defunct podcast for me and you shared a lot of your story, and that's what, again, brought me some peace where I can try to carve my mental sovereignty. I still have a long way to go, but reconnecting with that piece of yourself is now going to allow you to grow a brand new tree, I'm excited for you.
Yeah, man. And I'm excited for you because, there's a lot of, and I hear the way you speak and just for me, I'm an energy guy, right? So it's there's not much. Even this morning, I dropped off my son and I had to drive. He brought something, I share custody with his mom. I'm divorced since 2019, but I have a great relationship with his mom, and his mom has this beautiful energy, right? And literally, I called her up because I'm going to stop by and drop off something that Julian wanted me to drop off at the house. And as soon as she picked up the phone, she's like, hello. And just even the way she said hello, I'm like, is this Karen? Are you okay? She's like, oh, I'm so stressed. I can tell right away. Right. So that's something with a lot of the work that I've done where I'm able to feel that. So I say that to say, when there's no filters in terms of you being who you're meant to be, you literally have access to all those things that we dream about, all those things that we think are out there. They're right here. They're right here, right now. They're not out there. You literally can experience it right here, right now. All the thinking of, oh, one day at some point I'm going to have to say, or even you saying, yeah, man, I have a lot of work to do. It's like, yeah, we all have a shit ton of work all the time, bro. But all that really matters is this moment. All that matters is this conversation. And I have stories for days in terms of some of the things that have opened up from just being, I for example, early in my career, I ran these sales seminars. I was a district manager for a company called Cutco. So we sold Cutco knives, and I would train, do this initial training. And I remember having this seminar with only 2 kids that showed up, and the ideal type of candidates to sell Cutco back then, this is 20 plus years ago, were people that, had a network and were from the area. And I remember in this specific training class, there were 2 people from out of town. One girl was from Pennsylvania, and this other kid, Hiroshi, I remember his name. He was a foreign exchange student. And I remember just going into this training. I'm like, I'm going to train this class as if I have 10 of the best possible candidates that I could have. And I ran that training unlike anything I ever did. And those 2 reps, after I launched them and they went out and sold, we were the number 1 office competing with people that had 10, 15 people in their training seminars. So one of the reps ended up flying out to Pennsylvania to do some appointments over there. And Hiroshi ended up running into a restaurant owner who ended up buying a lot of Cutco from him. And, again, I share that to say, it's like, you never know when you're just right here and you understand that everything happens from here. Everything happens from presence, so that's what I'm a call to. It's like, the one that you're going to get on this stream is the same one that you would get off of it. And I get it. There's a lot of people that kind of have to play. We have to play these different characters, right? Because we got to kind of fit in. We don't want to disrupt anybody. We kind of want to stay in our lane. We don't, And I think that's those masks are falling, right? It's just we and I do think it goes back to the protocol, being able to save your energy in this sound system that isn't extracting from you, right? And it might not make sense to most people if you're hearing about Kaspa for the first time, Bitcoin for the first time, but feel this. Because energy is everything, right? Energy is everything. So, there's so much potential with where this can take us, and there's just so much that we can't even conceive about what this can do for people. I know that for me, I've shared this several times on the spaces and having conversations with you. It's like I'm just sharing from experience, man. I'm not reading specific books and giving you these hey, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to do it. Like, follow these steps and this will happen.
Right.
It's like, no. Sometimes you can get from point A to what you think is point, Z, like that. Yeah. If you're just open to it, I have countless of experiences like that where it's just like, no, I don't need to follow these steps. I need to just be real, and then I'll do the next thing, and then I'll get to wherever I'm supposed to get to.
Yeah, and that's something that you've done a great job at understanding the sovereignty of life when it comes to cryptocurrency and how it applies to the real day uses. Like, for instance, you tell the stories of you have a barber, a masseuse, and someone else on Kaspa.
Manny Petties.
Okay, Manny Petties. Shouts. I haven't had that done in so long.
Bougie Miami man.
Oh, dude. So check this out. So when I was a senior in high school, I went to a trade school. I moved from New York to Delaware when I was 15, and the only school that would take my credits from New York, because they did numbers, Delaware did letters. The only one that would transfer them correctly was the trade school. If not, I had to restart ninth grade. I wasn't doing that. I'm too smart for that shit. So I went to the trade school, busted it out. I finished all my credits by 11th grade. But in the trade school was cosmetology. So my senior year, because I had basically nothing to do, I would hang out in cosmetology all the time and every Friday get my hands and feet done, specifically during basketball season. So dude, they'd massage my feet, do my nails, put a clear coat on everything. I felt like a king. Are you kidding me? So I'd never looked down on Manny Petty since, man. It's the best.
Yeah, no, I had one of my son's godmother put me on maybe 10 years ago. And I was busted up back then because I'd never gotten Manny Petty. Sure. I got massages and stuff like that when I was in college. I played college football, so that was all good. But I was like, Manny Petty's no way. I never. And I remember she lived out in California. I went to visit her, and I felt like I was walking on clouds after that. I've been missing out on this. Are we supposed to talk about this? Is this like a big thing to talk about? No, I don't care now, bro. I live in Miami, so it's whatever. You got to take care of yourself,
right?
And that's a part of it.
But no, what I was getting at is, so like me, for instance, those who may or may not know, I've been unemployed since the first week of June, and this is so over the last 2 calendar years, I lost the best 9 to 5 I could have asked for. It was 7 to 3:30, no holidays, no weekends, great benefits, great pay, all that stuff. They just shut down their location in Delaware. There was nothing I can do about it. Since then, it's been over 2 years, and I have worked on a W-2 less than 1 full year in those last 2 years. And after speaking with you, I had a long conversation with my wife, and I just told her, and my therapist, to be honest, I told them both, I'm like, the rejection from trying to get a job makes everything so much worse for me. Trying to jump back into that system has really hurt me even more. And then I take it out on my family. I'm a worse husband because of it. I'm a worse father because of it, because my energy has now been stolen from me just because somebody felt like they can do that to me. And I know it's not to me, it's the system, right? There's 100,000 applicants, one person gets a job. There's only so much you can do. I get that. And I look, again, broken home when I grew up, I have acceptance issues, whatever. So when I do get turned down, I do take it personal because I know I'm good enough, right? But they're telling me I'm not. And I don't have a chance to prove it to them either. So after our conversation, I talked to my therapist and talked to my wife. I said, how do I break free? How do I create mental sovereignty to now figure out how to live outside of 9 to 5? How do I live in a world where I am not tethered to the system? Now, we are fortunate in one aspect. My wife works in healthcare, great benefits, great hours, but she's put in that work for 20 years. I can't just tag along, right? But she W-2s us. We have rental properties too. You know, again, we're in some first world problem situation here, but as I told you before, my first therapist was an Army soldier, and he said trauma's trauma, right? So like, I don't want to cry about my mom being an asshole when he's over there catching bullets, right? Like, he's like, nah, man, trauma's trauma. So whatever, like, it stops you, you know? So, so while I'm trying to figure my shit out and then jump right back into the shit that tells me I'm not good enough, again, it's a detriment. So I'm trying to build, like, again, we spoke before, so I keep forgetting that, you know, people who may be hearing this conversation for the first time. When we first met, I looked at you and I go, that's the video game I want to play. And I see him at level 10. I don't know how many levels there are, because I'm, you know, the job's never done, right? I see you at level 10, but I'm like at level 1. But I know I'm playing the right game. I know I'm playing the right game. I now have to continue to play this game, not the one that came with the system, but this one over here that you had to find through, you know, channels of the, you know what I mean? Like, this is the Game Genie version. And that's where I want to be, you know? So like, these conversations are gonna be so helpful, but also the application of what we're doing, right? If we just did another show on YouTube, that's where everyone is. You're in the system, you're doing the thing. So doing a show on Vivor to connect with people and explain sovereignty from our own lens, we're in that right space to help build what that looks like. You know, like I said, you found a new foundation for yourself to bigger roots. Right now, your trunk's a little bit taller than mine. I'm growing my tree too. And we're in the same forest, and that's fucking great. Because this new forest, it has cleaner air. It has a wider space. The vision is endless. It's not constricted by, you know, the governments of the world, if you will. Because I mean, we can talk about whatever, but there's no narratives here besides sovereignty. I believe that for sure. You know, but and politics can help you get sovereignty, but we do realize in a situation like now, U.S. government shut down, there's no SNAP benefits, right? There's the EBT cards for those. Okay, not every person takes advantage of it, right? Some people do. Some people really fucking need it. And for those that really need it, they're the ones that are out on it. Things like that where, okay, I suggest that they find a way to not rely on the government, but everybody needs to find their way to that new starting point. There's no wrong in accepting help until you can figure out how to do it on your own, right? We both have children around the same age, right? Mine's 11, yours is 12, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah,
let's do this. Let's send them outside right now, on their own. Go do it, right? They're not built to that starting point yet, right? So like, some of these people who need assistance need to get built to that starting point and then go.
Absolutely.
And so like, where we're trying to be sovereign from, let's say, government systematic approaches, right? We also need to understand that, like, while systems exist, use them to your advantage to then get to that next level. And I think that's what I'm trying to do here, is that my wife, she's locking down the system. I'm trying to expand on the outside. And we'll see how it goes. You know, we'll see how it goes. It's been, but just to cap it though, it's been fruitful mentally that I am showing up better as Matt. I am showing up better as husband. I am showing up better as father. So like, that means way more than going to get a 9-to-5 job. 1,000% more.
Yeah, you know, I really do believe that we're always right exactly where we're supposed to be. And the more you can tune into whatever the messages that life is trying to throw at you, you know, I'm a very spiritual person, and talking about energy, I see that as God. And my foster mom's the the person who broke this down for me the best when I was in my early 20s, she's like, God, that's guidance, order, and direction. I'm like, huh, okay. You know, I grew up in a very religious household where my mom made me go to church on Sundays when I wanted to watch football. So I resented that quite a bit, you know, because church in the Latin community is from like 9 in the morning until 6 at night, right? So I would be like in my head being like, oh my God, I'm missing back then it was the 49ers, eventually became a Buccaneers fan. But I think it, you know, it specifically speaks to how difficult it is to really align your soul with your, you want to call it purpose, or just, you know, like, why are we here? What's the meaning of life, right? Like, these are questions we end up asking ourselves, and we take it so serious at a certain point in our lives, right? We become adult, we're adults, we're official. So at 18, we're these adults, and now we got to go out and do all these things. And I think when you take a look at, you know, as we're adulting and we grow up and we take a look at where things are, and you start to, you know, so for me, it's always been like, okay, what's the system I'm in? Okay, what are the rules here? Who set the rules? How did this happen? I just think as we've grown as a society, there's so many things that are very legacy, old systems that just don't work. Like this whole two-party system and the trying to govern 330 million people here in the U.S. Right? It's like, you know, Bishop, I never paid attention to politics up until last year, because I was in this position where I had way too much money in a checking account. I've been paying these financial advisors to advise me for 4 or 5 years, and you know, I got some gains from that and all that. All it was great, but again, going back to what it was when I was a kid, it was never about money. It was never about any of that shit. It was really about my freedom, my sovereignty. Looking back at it, that's what I had. That's what you have when you're a kid. You have this mental sovereignty, and you have these, you know, not all of us are fortunate with it, but it's, you know, like my parents weren't the greatest parents growing up, but I had sports and I had football. I had a good foundation. I had discipline that was instilled. And, you know, I fortunately just looked at it as a certain way, but you're right. There's programs and these things that are out there to help people, but are people really using it for what it's supposed to be used for? Right. And that's where people have to essentially check themselves. Right. It's like, I can see where there are systems that would help specific people, but I hear more about people taking advantage of that shit. And I do think once it gets to a certain level, there's only so much you can do for the masses, right? It really goes back to, okay, like you just talked about, now that you have this, okay, man, my mental sovereignty is super important. Like you're going back to addressing some of the trauma. You're seeing where there's disconnect. You're seeing where, okay, I can't go down that lane. Like you know too much now. That's opened up this new portal for you. So how should I vibe? What actually is important? Do I really give a shit about a fancy car? Like, no, I actually have everything that I need. I have my wife, my kid, my health. This is actually all that I need right now. So what do I really need, right? And that's where we bounce back and forth, because most people end up looking for validation of what they should be doing or what they could be doing from the outside. That's where we go to. But, you know, again, God for me is with guidance, order, and direction from within. Are you tapped into that instinct? Because again, going back to kids, man, look at the way kids function and they move around, man. They follow their instincts, and along the way, we end up losing that and forgetting what it was that just had us aligned with who we are in lives. I think, you know, Bishop, you're one of one. You're like, I believe that every single human on this planet has a very distinct reason as to why they're here, and the purpose, the meaning of life. I think Alan Watts puts this best. It's to be alive. We're supposed to be alive. We're supposed to live. And all the other definitions and these fucking heavy reasons as to like why we're here, bro. There's a saying that for my ex-wife, it's in Spanish, mucho show, which is like what she says. Mucho show means like you're being a big show. It's like, oh, you're being over dramatic. That's how most people are, right? Like if it's fucking heavy and there's trauma that you're attaching to it, like, mucho show. You're being a little too much here. It's like, simplify that. What do you actually need right now? What do you need today? And you know, when we get back in touch with those instincts, that's how my decision came this morning. It's like, I've just been in touch with when I trust in my instincts, maybe it looks scary initially, but if it feels right, that's what I go with.
That's great. Know? No, that's
different for everybody.
Yeah, that's part of the video game I want to get to, you know, because like we're okay, you know, like financially we're okay, you know, we survive without being paycheck to paycheck. So we can save $50 a month, right? So you're still technically paycheck to paycheck. But we're very good at being structurally sound with our bills. We're not, and part of part of my mental sovereignty, you had mentioned looking for validation. I have like 80 pairs of shoes, right? Because I see this, I want this, I get that. Also, I grew up one pair of shoes per year, right? And my foot grew so fast as a kid. By the time I was 13, I was wearing a size 14. It stopped from there, but the point is, like, I was only allowed one pair, and then if I played football and baseball as a kid, it was one pair of cleats. I wore just football cleats because those were the first ones that my mom got me. So like when I got older, it's like, okay, I'm going to give that little kid what he wanted. Plus, I earned this shit now, right? And you do it with this resentment for life. When this mental sovereignty thing came about, over the last month or so, and we live at an hour from the Delaware beaches, and we love going. And when we go, there's outlets down there. So there's an Under Armour outlet and a Nike outlet with our name on it, right? Like we go and I get as many pairs of shorts and as many muscle tees as I can get because I'm just comfortable that way. And part of the sovereignty has been like, oh, we don't have to do that anymore. It's not about it's not about cutting costs to save money. It's that I don't need that validation anymore. I can go the next legit probably 5 years when you include usage and never buy another piece of clothing. That includes underwear. I have too much fucking underwear because we would just buy it for ourselves knowing that we wanted to treat ourselves to nicer pairs of underwear. Well, you know what happens when we buy nice underwear? It lasts a long fucking time. Now I have too many fucking pairs of drawers. You know what I mean? Like, so like I could probably go at least 3 years, maybe 5 years and never buy another piece of clothing.
Wow.
That's a great problem to have if you're looking at it from a saving money standpoint, but also when you look at the excess that I put myself through looking for validation, it's like, man, I never needed that at all. I'm also very glad and fortunate I don't have to buy another pair of shoes for probably 15 years until they break down. That's great. So like, if I was to wear each pair of shoes for the entire year, like I could only wear them like 3 days a piece because I'd run out of days. Like, so, and again, that's a foolish good problem to have because I'm not going to go for shoes. But also I wear 14, and if my kid doesn't grow to have a size 14, I'm not going to hand down any of them. So I got to beat the shit out of them, right? So like looking, I mean, I don't even know how we got to that one, but like that's like
I may have to hit you up for some of those size 4. I'm a size 11.
Okay.
My son is already an 11 and a half.
Okay, we'll talk.
Yeah, so I may have to buy some.
I got some heat. Yeah. So, but that's life though, man. Like it's so fun to treat yourself and reward yourself. Like you had mentioned earlier, you want to, get back into sports the way you did as a kid. Actually that's something I do want to ask you about because I do have a bone to pick with you, given your sports teams. But so you mentioned 49ers. I know you're a Bucs fan. How did that transition work, and when did that click for you?
So all the way back to, you mentioned it earlier with the 94 Super Bowl when the 49ers played I'm feeling that right now, how beautiful that was. I remember the 49ers wore the white short or the white pants, old school, and they whooped the Chargers, San Diego Chargers at the time. So the reason is when I first moved to the States, I was born in Panama, moved to California. My father was in the military, so we were stationed out in California. And I remember being maybe 5, 6, 7 years old, somewhere around there. And the neighbor coming home in a football uniform and just being mesmerized by him and being like, what is that? I want to be that. And he was this big dude and obviously in football gear. And there was no football talk in my house. My dad was a big soccer guy and my mom is from Panama. So it's like none of that. But being in California, being that young, I was exposed to football. And this is the mid 80s, right? So there isn't a lot on TV, but the 49ers were on TV. And that's back when Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, they were winning all the Super Bowls. So in the 80s, I was in California and that's how the fandom started with football. We end up going back to Panama when how old was I? 7, 8 years old. still huge on football, right? The 49ers. And then my dad retires and we end up moving to Florida. And I was always really big into the uniforms and like the logo designs and all that. And I noticed we were really close to Tampa. And I wasn't a big fan of the old school Buccaneers, Bucco Bruce. Now they're
The
dope.
creamsicles? Yeah.
Oh, the creamsicles?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
goated, man.
Like I don't know if you saw the game where they played the Seahawks because both of them came to the league in 1976. And that game that they played with each other where Baker lit it up and Sam Darnold lit it up too. That was one of the best games so far this year. So again, to go back to the mid 90s, I wasn't a big fan of that, but they were up there. And I remember Sam Weich was the coach. And again, the commercials on TV were all Buccaneer stuff. My mom got us little cups for me. I have two younger brothers. One of my brothers got a Jets cup. She gave me the Buccaneers cup, which I was like, I like the 49ers. She didn't get it. My mom also, I remember one Christmas got me a Troy Aikman. I'm a 49ers fan. She got me a Troy Aikman jersey for Christmas, and I had to pretend like I liked it. And I remember being like so upset with her. So I was like 10 years old when that happened and had to deal with it and laugh at it now. So when they drafted, so I'm a Florida State fan.
Okay.
And that's because of Charlie Ward being a black quarterback.
Okay.
I wanted to be a quarterback. I'm still not a quarterback
Oops.
yet.
Charlie Ward didn't quite turn out to be an NFL quarterback.
No, he didn't. That's a whole other story in itself because he could have. You know, he was like a Patrick Mahomes back in those days. But no, he ended up playing for the Knicks, right? He got drafted in the first round
for the Knicks. Yep.
But I think he took himself. This is back when obviously there's newspapers, but I remember reading about this and being like, why wasn't Charlie Ward drafted? And learning later, I think a lot of it had to do with he wanted to be a first round pick, and nobody would guarantee that with him unless he decided not to play basketball. But he played like 15 years in the league, something like that, right? In the NBA as a point guard. So, anyways, Charlie Ward was my guy, and it was because he was a black guy, and I'm brown. Sure. I grew up around I grew up in Venice, Florida. There weren't a lot of other brown kids around.
Yeah.
So that was just like an inspiring thing for me. I remember going to my backyard. I had a little tire swing and throwing the football, and I was too big. So I mentioned the first position that I played was center. But then when I got to the States, Florida, I'm in 6th grade, and they have Pop Warner, and there's weight limits. I'm too big to play with kids my age, so they put me to play with the division of 7th and 8th graders. I also couldn't make weight. Right. So I think I made weight for 3 games, and I was a defensive tackle. So I got my 3 plays in a game. So this is how horrible I was. Right. But in my mind, I'm delusional. And around that time, so again, going back to Warrick Dunn, Charlie Ward, and specifically when the Bucs drafted Warrick Dunn. So that was a little bit later. But when they got, I was following when they got Warren Sapp. Derek Brooks is another Florida State guy. Yep. I want to say that was 95. And then they changed the uniforms to what they are now. I was like, whoa, those are the dopest uniforms in the NFL now. And they're the local team. They're what I see on TV. And then they ended up getting Tony Dungy, right? And that run when I was in high school. So I'm a sophomore, junior, senior in high school when they're playing. And they were just the talk of, the town. Everybody loved the Bucs, and it was a big deal where I was at. So that's how I ended up switching into Buccaneers fandom. My heart is still like I love the 49ers so I wore number 8 because of Steve Young. Steve Young was a Hall of Fame quarterback for them after Joe Montana, and I wore number 8 because of that. But I'm a Bucs fan ever since, and it was they ended up winning the Super Bowl in 2002. I know you're a Packers fan. My brother was a Packers because of Brett Favre winning it in '96. I think it was right.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I to the point where recently being fortunate. I don't think I've shared this with you. I've one of my bucket list items is I want to go to all 30 NFL stadiums. So I've been to 21 of them. Been to 21. So
what 9 do you have left?
I actually have a list, but
oh, nice.
I want to say the NFC. So I haven't been to Philly. I haven't been to New England, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, that area up there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, a handful of others up there.
It's a great story, and it's kind of how it's kind of how it should be. I mean, you grow up and you want to absorb what's around you, and you want to feel community, and you want to have attachment, and I respect it because I was a flip flopper when I was younger. So when I started smiling when you said that your mom got you guys cups, and that's how the teams came about.
Yeah.
That's actually my origin story.
Really?
Yeah. So in New York, there's Upper East. There might be elsewhere too, but Carvel ice cream shops. They used to serve in baseball helmets and football helmets, and this is back in probably '89. I might be 4 years old, maybe 90, and I got a Packers helmet, and I just thought a letter, because again I grew up in New York, so I'm seeing names written all over. So the Giants were on the helmet, the Jets was on the helmet, and this was just a letter. And I was like, this is so cool. And I don't know why, I just loved it. So from like 4 to 7, all I could think about was Packers, Giants, and Dolphins, because my mom was Dolphins and my dad was Giants. And as I was like navigating things and being shunned from my parents and just put in a corner, I didn't have an allegiance. So I was kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, when the Bills went to 4 straight Super Bowls. And you're seeing this thing and this entire rooting, and if they're red, white, and blue, so like it's traditional, and you're like, you just want these guys to win, and then they're the Redskins at the time, and they're just beating the piss out of people, and then the Cowboys come along and they're flashy. They win the first Super Bowl, and I go, and then my dad meets my first stepmom, and she's a Cowboys fan. I was like, you know what? She's going to like me. I'm going to be a Cowboys fan too. So I do this Cowboys thing from second and third grade. Maybe some of fourth too? Yeah, fourth grade too. But my mom meets my stepdad when I'm in third grade. So my step-parents shaped my life because my parents fucking don't. In third grade, he's a Steelers fan. And Steelers fans hate Cowboys because of the 70s. So he could not stop talking shit on me. I remember one year he called me up while I was visiting my dad. We're talking over the phone. I'm visiting my dad. And he goes, hey, did you, and this is before ain't was in the dictionary. He goes, did you realize that ain't is in the dictionary now? I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, it's in there as ain't going to happen. Cowboys ain't going to win the Super Bowl this year. And I was like, all right, whatever, man. And then by the time that summer break was over, I was like, I remembered my football helmet, and I remember seeing Brett Favre throw the furthest pass ever out of bounds. And I was like, man, that's a smart quarterback. Cut to his career, throws more interceptions than anybody else. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a Packers fan. I'm not even going to be a Cowboys fan anymore, so he can't make fun of me. This was the summer, right? The summer of 94 leading into season 95. So the Cowboys literally didn't win the Super Bowl that year before, right? It was the 49ers.
Yeah.
What happens the next year in 95? It's Cowboys-Steelers in the fucking Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys whooped that ass. And so, and actually the Packers played the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game that year, so it was almost Packers-Steelers in that Super Bowl. And we were rooting for it so hard because he couldn't talk shit on me anymore. Steelers lose that Super Bowl to the Cowboys. The next year, Packers-Patriots. So yeah. I went to my true allegiance, and within 2 years, I got my Super Bowl. And then cut to 14 years later. 14 years later. No. Yeah. 24 years later. 24, yeah. Right? No. 14 years later. It was 14 years 14 later. Years. Yeah, 14 years later, because it was in. We're back on. Yeah. So, technical difficulties, gotta love it. It's episode 1. We're figuring this out. Shout out to Wrestling on the Rocks, my buddy over there, Marsh. He runs episode every time we do it. It's episode 1 because we can't get it right. So shouts to them. But no, new software. I've never used Streamlabs before. I also don't have the best computer for doing all this, but I knew that we had the best energy for figuring this out. Just to kind of cap what I was saying, to have a Steelers-Packers Super Bowl that my stepfather and I can witness together was special for me. I love that man. I haven't talked to him or my mom in almost 6 years, and that was a mental sovereignty choice that I needed to take back then. And I'm okay with it. I never disparage her. She's the reason, but I never disparage her to anyone else. Even my son, when he says like, XYZ, I go, look, she was great to you. She was just never good to me, ever. And when you're able to, that's the only forgiveness she gets from me, is that I will spread grace where due. Because any excess negativity, that just comes back to me.
It does, yeah.
So that's why I like to speak with truth. And my truth is, in that situation, that hey, it's just not good for me to have that relationship, and unfortunately, it's incumbent upon her to fix her part of that relationship in order for her to have any access to the family that I've created, which could be a detriment to my son, but it's not, because it would grow resentment in all aspects. And we don't need to go down that path. We need to be the best people we can be. So anyway, the fact that Steelers-Packers Super Bowl was able to be created, is just a beautiful thing. We had a great time. 31-25. I have it on record on my PlayStation 3.
That was in Tampa, was it? Where did they play it? And you're talking about the 2010?
Dallas.
Okay,
they played it in Dallas. Yeah. Yeah, it snowed that day in Dallas. It was horrible traffic and all that shit. I didn't go, but I just remember that. It was a beautiful thing. Football and sports is just so amazing. And speaking of Bucks, speaking of Packers, and speaking of Super Bowls, you stole one from me.
Which one?
That Tom Brady Super Bowl.
Brady was it? Oh.
So here's this is what I'll say.
I'm not sorry.
Oh, don't be. I'm not a conspiracy guy. I mean, look at the NBA, right? All the players,
let's hear it though. I want to hear this.
All the players betting on sports. No, there's one play. There's one play in that NFC Championship game that needed to be changed, and it wasn't. Towards the end of the first half, there was a interception that happened with blatant pass interference beforehand. So if the pass interference gets called, the interception doesn't happen. Look, Brady threw 3 picks in the fourth quarter. We don't score, that's on us, right? Like I said, I can watch this through the details of truth in sports. But the interception happens. Brady picks on Kevin King and throws just the dime of all dime touchdowns to get out of the first half. And you guys go up. We bring it all the way back within 1 score, right? And in that fourth quarter, again, we get you guys to turn the ball over, because it might have been 2 picks. I don't know. Whatever it was, we actually played great defense in the fourth quarter to get down to that final drive. I also didn't have a problem with us kicking a field goal either, because we stopped you guys the entire fourth quarter. Yeah. So the idea of getting the ball back could happen. But to me, it has nothing to do with the play calling after that. It had everything to do with the fact that was literally pass interference on that play. It became an interception. And that changed everything for me. I was like, you know what? That's bullshit. And if that one thing happened, because I knew this going into the Super Bowl, the Chiefs' offensive line was so fucking decimated. They were. It was, and Mahomes ran for his life the entire. I said, so whoever gets there is winning. Yeah. And I knew it. I knew we could finally win. Look, because Aaron Rodgers went to 5 NFC Championship games, only won 1, right? And when we go into Seattle and we're the better team, and Russell Wilson throws 5 interceptions and we still lose that game, you don't deserve to win, right? I also knew it would have been tough as hell to beat the Patriots in that Super Bowl, so I wasn't pissed about losing because we would have won. That 2020 championship game, I fucking knew it. I knew if whoever won that game was winning the Super Bowl, and that would have been just the fucking but that interception just because Brady played like shit that entire postseason, right? He threw 110 yards against the Saints in the first round of the playoffs. Barely got through in the second round. I forgot who you guys. The Rams?
No. It was.
Who'd you play in the second round?
Saints.
It was the Saints in the second round. Who was in the first round? Or did you start in the second round?
No. We started in the second round because we won the division that year. So it was the Saints and then the Packers. We gotta look this up to make sure. Yeah. I'm vague on a couple. I mean, I just remember that year being. I couldn't believe that. I still it was crazy to think that Brady went to Tampa.
Right. I was and won in the first year too. That was the
But the thing is, like, so being a Bucks fan, we'd suffered through so much chaos over the past 10, 15 years, and there was so much hope with Jameis Winston as a
Washington.
person.
It was the Taylor Heineke game.
Washington.
It was Washington.
Okay.
Yeah, Heineke played his ass off, and you guys ended up winning. I don't know what the score was, but
no, I think that the defense carried that's in that entire playoff run. But having Brady, it's just like when Brady won his first Super Bowl. That was a defensive team that won.
Yeah.
But Brady was at it was the leadership and what he brought, the energy that he brought to Tampa, because.
Well, then my point was that he was shit in all three games in aspects, right? And then in the Super Bowl, he throws for like 360 and 4 touchdowns, and it's like, well, yeah, that's literally his best statistical Super Bowl where they won. Like, but
go figure, man. Go figure how that works out. That's the interesting thing about sports, man. It's just it's pretty cool to be in the energy and the fandom behind all that. And I was gonna go to that Super Bowl too. It was in Tampa.
Yep.
Literally the first team to win the Super Bowl in their home stadium. It was COVID year though, and we were gonna have to sit apart. I think we'd have to wear the mask by that point. But I only went to one game that year. I had season tickets at the time too. I had season tickets for about up until this past year was the first year I didn't renew it for 6 or 7 years prior to that, and I was on and off. It was like I live in Miami. And it's a 3.5 hour drive up there. It was, during the Jameis Winston years, there was a lot of, I drove all the way up here to feel this. Washes from but they ended up putting the stadium has amazing jumbotrons. So it's really cool, but it's super hot there, especially the 1 o'clock games. So I was contemplating back and forth during all those years where it was really tough to be a Bucks fan, but the hope with Jameis Winston and I mean Brady knew what he was doing, because the year before he went there is when Winston threw 33 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. He throws half of those interceptions, that team is a different team.
Sure.
It was like if Winston got another year, I don't know about the Super Bowl, but Winston was turning it around. It's just his first pass ever as a Buck, pick 6. His last pass ever as a Buck, pick 6.
Talent, man.
Winston would sling it. I love that kid, man.
Yeah, another Florida State boy for you.
He's a Florida State guy, but his people love him in Tampa. It's just fortunate that the game didn't translate, and just throwing those. Like you mentioned, Brett Favre, man. Brett Favre threw way more interceptions. So many interceptions. A gunslinger. That shit worked back then.
Yeah.
Really do that in today's game. You can't turn the ball over like that.
Yeah, at all. Football is such a beautiful game. It's interesting because, I mean, again, we grew up watching it, and we're not our parents' age who saw people, get decapitated and shit. But, I mean, shit, ESPN used to have a segment called Jacked Up, right, when these hard hits used to happen. And they don't quite happen anymore, so you see, like, the strategery that happens, and it kind of bums me out because I'm in that position now. Again, as a Packers fan, I have a head coach who likes to outthink every aspect of the game. Last year when I was talking to my buddy about it, and he was like, "What's up with Jordan Love? I've never seen a quarterback like him ever. He can look like Joe Montana, but he can also look like a right-handed Michael Vick. Like he's just not good, but then he's also great." I said the problem is that it's the head coach. The head coach tries to outthink everything and can do so. Like, you have to scheme it. We don't have great receivers because it's not upon them to get open all the time. And I truly feel like that's why Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers wanted to leave, is because they weren't allowed to think on the field. There was no field thinking anymore. And it actually, I was listening to the broadcast this weekend, and Greg Olson said it. He's like, yeah, I talked to Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator for the Packers. He goes, it's hard to figure out these offenses because our game plans don't work based on the protections because they change the protection for Micah Parsons. And I was like, that's fucking ass backwards way of thinking. I remember a Sunday night football game between the Ravens and the Patriots, and Tom Brady comes up. They're at the goal line. Tom Brady comes up, and he's doing this, and he's doing that, and he's doing the audibles, right? Ray Lewis goes right over center and goes, nope. And then they stopped stop the Patriots. Ray Lewis once said, and I think Richard Sherman said this too, we play our defense, you adjust. Right? You have to figure out our defense. We don't have to figure out your offense. You figure out our defense. And that's something that worked for the Packers last year. However they did it, they caused so many turnovers. They literally just played their defense. This year, they're trying to scheme with Parsons to attack these offenses, but they don't know what to... Well, play your fucking defense and have them figure it out. And it's just, it's fucking irritating, man. It's irritating.
That makes sense from a defensive standpoint to do that and then have the offense, because most of the quarterbacks in the NFL aren't there with, if you play somebody like a Jared Goff, or even, I'll vouch for my boy Baker. Baker is making reads at the line and changing things up. He has a lot of freedom. So when they're able to do that, then you gotta scheme. You gotta have somebody on the defense to be the quarterback and potentially put you in, I love how Bowles schemes things up, man. Bowles is such a great defensive mind because you never know what's coming. People are always, tricked by when he blitzes, and he's had a couple of moments this year where it's like, oh shit, I didn't even see that coming. And I played the position of quarterback, so it's like getting back into the reconnection of why I love the sport. It's the chess of sports, man.
Yeah.
Chess of sports, there's so many moves that, like you said, if they had called that pass interference, one little play, one little thing completely changes the flow of the game.
Yeah, I mean, call it momentum, call it flow, call it energy, call it what you want, but there's such a pressure to every moment of success, which is what is probably and I don't give Brady a lot of credit because I'm spiteful. But I'm also realistic. And he admits it too. Like, his success was in a vacuum, right? Like, one doesn't happen without another, and he also took advantage of every second of that. So you got to give him that credit, right?
Yeah.
But the defining moment for him should always be 28-3, right? Like, any other offense quarterback team that takes that many blows, you usually don't take a step forward. They're down 28-3 in the Super Bowl to the Falcons. To take that many hits and be down, but then continue to go, you know what? No, we're coming back. That type of resilience is why the Bucs beat the Packers in that NFC Championship game, because the Packers couldn't punch back enough to overcome one little moment. They did, but they didn't, right? Like, so, like, to not actually turn that all the way around. So, yeah, man, like that type of mental resilience is why sports is so important for kids. Unfortunately, my son's not into sports anymore because he's not allowed to be free for him, but he does want to box. There's just no boxing gyms close to us, so we're a little. We want him to do it because we would love for him to get punched in the face and kind of understand what true pain is. Well, for instance, your kid stubs their toe and they cry for 3 hours. It's like, dude, it's a stubbed toe. Wait till you stub it again. It's not going to hurt as much. Yeah. And we tell them every time, tears are real. Get them out. Right?
I love that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Because, again, we grew up without hugs in our generation, right? So, tears are real. Recognize them. But once they stop, don't start them back up. The tears and the emotions are a true reaction to what happened to you. Okay. Now that you've gone through that reaction, what happened? This is what happened. If you retell the story and it makes you sad, then retell it again. It'll make you less sad again. And you just keep going and going and going and going that way. That's how we do it. Because crying's natural. And ever since my son was born, I cry at everything. Shouts to the Terrible Wrestling Takes podcast, my last episode, I did a watch along of John Cena versus AJ Styles, and it was a tribute match. And in one of the moments, they did a tribute to a wrestler that passed away, Bray Wyatt. And when he passed away, I took it really hard because he was allowed me to feel that childlike thing when watching wrestling again. Mm-hmm. As a 35, 36, 37, 38, 40-year-old, you're watching wrestling. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what you're watching. But for a wrestler or a character to make you believe something, like, you get attached. And I got attached, and when he passed away, I cried like a baby. And then I went to a live show. I went to WrestleMania. when it was in Philly, and it was the WrestleMania after he had passed away, and they honored him. They played his music, and part of his shtick is the lights would go off and people put their cell phones up, and it's called the Fireflies. And it's like it's incumbing and like it's overcoming, and I welled up with emotions. I made sure to take a selfie to like honor that moment while I'm watching the match, and I'm crying during the tribute that they did to him. So tears are real because when shit means something to you, you should be allowed to express that. You can call me a bitch all you want. It's not true. I'm a human who has emotions, and I'm not afraid to express them. If I'm not afraid to be angry, why would I be afraid to be sad or emotional or upset or happy? Like it's that type of catch 22. Like, nah, man, suppress the ego and move on.
Yeah, that stigma is dying. I think it'll die off completely. I mean, like you said, I grew up in a military household where it was like you do as you're told, you don't ask questions. And, I like you talked about that you haven't spoken with your mom in 6 years, and boundaries are absolutely healthy. But as we've had access to all this information and been able to process things, and I think the way things are just moving in life, man, it's important to, like, you're a little bitch if you don't cry. Right. That's how I see it, right? You're a little, what, you can't deal with what you're actually feeling and fucking be real about it.
Right.
Like you're being a bitch. Like that, if anything, that's when you're being a bitch. So I think a lot of that is just, think about the conversations we've even had offline with how we are with our kids. It's, the cycle is, okay, let me learn from the mistakes, the things that I needed, and let me give that to my kid. And, you find out when you're a parent that we're just figuring this out as you go, so it's the same shit with our parents, right? They didn't get a manual. We don't get a manual. And we're just trying to figure this shit out as we go. What I've learned is when you can be real about what is actually happening. And sometimes that is putting up those healthy boundaries where it's like, nah, I'm not gonna, you got to come meet me here if you want to be a part of what I'm building with my family. Right. And I can tell you, Bishop, like that's exactly how I was with my, I went 3, 4, 5 years without going to see my mom and dad and my family. And, I got family in Panama, and I remember not seeing them for 17 years and then going down there and feeling, they knew that I was the American kid that lived in the States. And there's a lot of assumptions behind that. I would go down there and they'd be like, oh, Juan's going to come and buy groceries for everybody. That's energy. That drains your energy. Okay. So you're putting all these expectations on me, but how about you ask me how I feel and how I'm doing? And it just, they don't do it maliciously. They're not trying to fucking be that way, but it's super important for your mental sovereignty, for you to be able to be with people, to fucking put up those healthy boundaries. And at the same time, it's important that we feel and process this shit, bro, because that's the only way you get real connection. And those moments of when you're watching something that you connect to when you were a kid and you feel that and it brings all that back. That's what, the purpose of life. That's you being alive in that moment, man. That's really what that is. And that's all life is trying to stack as many of those as you can, right? Not necessarily counting it. It's like, how many times can you just be in the moment, really connect with somebody? People, you can tell when someone's authentic. You can tell when somebody's speaking from right here, right now, and not like trying to hide some shit, right? The more and more you can do that, the more and more you attract that in your life. Just like I don't, to the point where I talk to the drill sergeant now. We were able to build a relationship. I was able to show him, hey, here's what I did with Bitcoin since 2018. You have this pension check that comes in every single month. Every fucking month, we're having a conversation about, I need this, I need that, I need that. Let's sit down and take a look at. Let me show you my shit over the past 4 years, and you let me know what you think you should do from here. Like, I had to sit down with the drill sergeant, and that dude was a hard ass a year ago in December. We sat down. I was like, look at what would happen. Oh, had you just done this and this and that? Okay, yeah, there's this volatility, but check out what it would have been. He was like, oh, really? That much? I'm like, yeah. I go, you can't. And here's the big thing, right? Which is what a lesson I've learned about leveraging Bitcoin and the whole fucking thing behind Bitcoin. Like, oh, hodl your Bitcoin, borrow against it, which I think is bullshit. You got to use that. We got to use it. All right. So I showed him what happened, and then I went and borrowed it, and the big liquidation event on the 10th had me realize, oh shit, I spent all this fucking fiat and I didn't spend the Bitcoin. That's the lesson.
Yep.
It's I need to use this, right? At the same time, I'm grateful for the Bitcoin journey and how that played out, because it allowed me to see what Bitcoin did from 2018. Like, I have the transaction of buying $50 when it was at $6,000 and seeing that volatility, not touching it, right? And then putting $1,000 in it and putting more money in it and realizing what it is, right? So one shouldn't, the beautiful thing about these protocols is, like, one shouldn't just throw absolutely everything that they have into it. But if you can throw a little bit of energy and realize, like, oh shit, how does it feel to vibe with this? There's a direct correlation with storing your money in that. And literally showing my dad that last year about, hey, here's the reason I'm able to live the way I live. I don't wake up to an alarm clock. I live where I live in Miami. I've been to 21 NFL stadiums. Like, I'm posting all this shit on Instagram. I also had to disconnect from a lot of people on Instagram. I closed my Instagram account before I came into the Kaspa sphere. Now it's different, right? I'm back on socials and all that. But I had to protect the energy. And Bishop, I never thought I would get the version of my dad that I have now. I've been able to. He lets me manage it for him. So literally stacking his money in Kaspa and Bitcoin. He doesn't. It's crazy. He spends what he needs. He has money come in, right, every single month, but he doesn't overextend himself like he was doing when he saw the dollars coming in and he was managing it. So he was like, I don't want to know what's in there.
Right.
And I have seen him just vibe completely differently. And this man's always been really great with my son, but now the way he is with me and the way he is with my brothers, that he's just calmer. He's like, oh, cool, I don't need it. And you should see it month by month. He's stacking Bitcoin away, stacking some Kaspa away, right? And I can sense it for him because I've felt this over the past 4 or 5 years. But yeah, man, it's again, we're born into the system, man, where it's like the tools that were available to our parents and how people have to go out there and work and shit like that. There's trauma that comes along with it, and I think it all intertwines into just how it is for people, man. And we're blessed to be in different times where platforms like this are being built, where we can have conversations like this, and it's like we don't have to listen to just Stephen A's opinion.
No, for sure. And I think, because I always looked at it as a detriment that I wasn't able to start a job to find a pension like my dad did, right? He worked 30 years for General Motors, left with a pension, went to another place for 12 years, and was able to put 25% of his salary, and we're talking over $25,000 a year, into a 401k. That doesn't exist for our generation. It doesn't. And the guys on Blockchain Banter talked about it a little bit. I do want to touch on that before we wrap up in a little bit. But I saw it as a detriment. And what you just said right now is that it's not. It's an opportunity to now carve a path that never existed before. And that's such a brilliant way to think about it, because I have 3 properties, right? 2 are rentals, 1 we live in, and that's excess, right? And my wife and I, we want to figure out how to make our money work for us, right? And what does that look like? What's that journey take us? And all these things. And we've never been able to centralize that focus to go, yeah, we can do it. It's still with the mindset, well, we got to work. We got to have, we have to make enough money to pay for healthcare, to pay for groceries, and the gap that the rent doesn't cover on the mortgages. Or we can fully invest into these rental properties, turn them into pristine condition, and then charge a premium for what we actually do. We can work harder at the side hustle instead of staying tethered to the main, the main part of it. And can we live outside the system? Well, yeah, people do it all the fucking time. And before I touch on to the Blockchain Banter guys from last night, which was a great show, I was only able to listen to a little bit, but the podcast, I do want to mention, we have 2 more donations. Galone hit us again with another 5 Kaspa. Appreciate that. And Seb NL hit us with 10 Kaspa. And if that's Seb, the developer, who's doing great shit all the time, shouts to Seb.
Yes. Ass Maps. He's awesome. Appreciate that, Seb.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Seb. The billionaire conversation last night. They touched on some good points, but I think there was a piece that I wanted to jump in and talk, but I couldn't at the moment because of where I was. Billionaires existing, and was Billie Eilish is the one that attacked billionaires for,
She's yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I have no problem with individual billionaires who have tangible billions. If you've made $1 billion fiat and that's cash in your pocket, go for it. Not a problem. The problem I do have is the billionaires like, let's say, Elon Musk, where he just signed on for what, $500 billion in Tesla stock, right? Like that's wealth that goes to him. Mm-hmm. The problem I have is in these equity billionaires, if they were to transfer some of that equity to the people that help build that. For instance, I have this theory with Amazon. 1 year they made $7 billion in profit. If they take $1 billion and give $1 million to 1,000 workers, those 1,000 workers take that $1 million and they help solidify their life, and they also help stimulate the economy. That's $1 billion. That's 1/7 of a $7 billion profit that business had. That if it goes back to the company, the people who helped build it, maybe 500 of those 1,000 people decide to retire. Now you open up 500 new jobs. Now you have the ability to stimulate the economy through, because they said the reason why things cost more is because the dollar is worth less, right?
Yes.
And it's true. The fiat dollar is going down. But part of it is there's no capitalistic way to have redistribution of wealth, okay? So if the companies decide to invest in their employees, that's redistribution of wealth, right? And it's doing it in a capitalism way. If the government takes the money and distributes it to the people, that's called socialism, right?
Nope.
There's governments who are thriving, like China, right? But they operate in communism, and you can't talk about that, right? But because they have business control of everything, their people also pay less for everything. The people live on a better standard, and their dollar over there is worth more than the U.S. dollar because there is a universal sense of moving forward. Where when it comes to billionaires in America, it's the haves and have-nots, right? It's how do I get all this and keep this to myself and not give it to anyone else? And I'm not saying that we all deserve a handout, but if you're at an Amazon and you're making $15 an hour and Jeff Bezos gets a $5 billion bonus, why doesn't everyone who makes $15 an hour get a $100,000 bonus, and Bezos doesn't get fucking anything because he also has the equity in the company that these people don't get? That's the kind of like socialistic capitalism vision that I have, because I believe in free market, I believe in free enterprise, I believe in building yourself to a thing that's so valuable. But it's when you keep all of that to yourself in a business profit aspect without filtering it back to the people who do the work, like that's fucking crazy, man. Like no, you don't have to give it all away, but to keep everything and not add to the economy through its people, it's fucking tough, man. It's tough to watch.
So yeah, and I resonate with how you're looking at that and what you see, and this is where my mind completely was flipped when I realized that we talk about free markets, but really understanding that I say this, the fix doesn't come within the system. When you're looking at it from whether it's capitalistic or socialistic standpoint, it's the polarity and how we think if this is done then this will happen, and just the way the system is set up, how the only way that system continues to prevail is by capital being initiated into the system. So no matter what, we need more liquidity put into the system, and because of that, right? Because of the dollar losing its value, its purchasing power over time, the gap between the haves and the have-nots, that's just going to get bigger and bigger. And now, you speak to a bunch of points there where it's like, oh, if this is done, then this could be better in that. And what ends up happening in an economy like that, or in a monetary system like that, where, because they mentioned this on the blockchain banner, where there's just more billionaires, and it's in that system, it's only going to get, the gap's only going to get wider and wider, and that's what had me open my eyes to what this Bitcoin thing, and specifically the property of scarcity. There only being 21 million Bitcoin that will ever be issued, right? And the same thing with Kaspa, there only being 28.7. I don't even think the number really matters, right? Some people are like, oh, it's 28.7. Is that really scarcity? Or 21? A pie is a pie. So it doesn't matter how you cut it up. It's the scarcity and knowing that the issuance of it, for Bitcoin, they have until 2140. With Kaspa, it's a little bit sped up. And stock to flow wise, I think in the next couple of years, it's going to surpass what it is, what Bitcoin is. So it's going to actually be more scarce. So that component in a tool that measures economic activity. So given Kaspa is such a small market cap compared to these other ones, and it gets the attention that it gets it because of the other monetary properties. So that there is no issuer. So even though we have people that launch, DAG Labs was around before it initially was launched, and they helped with the development of what it was going to be. But they realized, oh, if we launch this and we have a pre-mine and an allocated thing to this isn't going to catch on. They realized that, and they launched it, and it's fair launch, so that we can see this all the way from the initial Genesis block, how it's been allocated, right? So this system is this system. So Bitcoin and Kaspa specifically are measures of a free market that we've never ever had measured before, and that's why we compare this to Bitcoin as much as we do, because Bitcoin is the best example of what we've gotten. It's been 16 years in human years, right? But if you take a look at how the asset's traded, it's borderless, permissionless, all throughout the world, 24/7. We've never had a tool like that,
right?
Measure economic activity, right? And people think, oh, it's only been 16 years, but compare that to the stock market, right? The stock, it's 24/7. We're talking somewhere around like 50 years of data. So we have enough data to see what a proof of work mine coin with an issuance, a set issuance, where the protocol is set with consensus. What happens? We see the volatility. So it's measuring the market and what's happening in the economy. And now that we have that, right? And this is where my story in terms of realizing here recently, where, okay, what am I doing borrowing against it and still using this fiat borrowed against the asset, right? That's not where this is going to change the game for people. Where it's going to change the game is actually using this and having it be, so literally spending it. People talk shit about the guy that spent, what was it, 10,000 Bitcoin on the pizza.
I think it was 10 Bitcoin on one pizza, or 2 Bitcoin.
I think it was 10,000.
Oh, it was 10,000?
10,000 Bitcoin. But what people don't realize is, okay, in a proof of work system, had he not spent that, cool, nobody knows about it.
Right.
And that's where I think there's a lot of the narrative that's stuck right now, right? You take a look at the history of Bitcoin and what it initially was. It was supposed to be a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, and what that did to the people that caught on to that early, right? So yeah, that guy spent 10,000 Bitcoins to buy that pizza, but that it's not about the nominal figure, because like, okay, 10,000 Bitcoin is 10,000 Bitcoin. It's worth in dollars. It's worth, that'd be worth what, like 1.1 billion today.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It isn't worth anything if it isn't being used.
Right.
And that's what we're realizing with Bitcoin, and the borrowing against Bitcoin isn't using the Bitcoin. Sending Bitcoin on layer 2s isn't the Bitcoin. And that's why, if it actually scaled on the base layer and more of us could get onto the base layer and actually use Bitcoin, there's no reason for Kaspa to even
right.
exist, right?
Right. Yep.
So that speaks to, so to me, although I see what you're saying with, hey, if there's a couple things, if we do this and that, the distribution would be a little bit better, and it would be fairer. when you're operating from a sound money standard, it's literally measuring the free market, and you're using this.
Sure.
The wealth is distributed based on, and here's another thing that ends up happening in a true free market, right? So what ends up happening in a free market is there really aren't monopolies, because what happens is entrepreneurs attack whatever is being built. And for example, like the calculator is a great example of this, right? Essentially, you can get a really nice one for free. You download an app.
Right.
But when we were going to school, we had to buy these. I remember the Texas Instruments. They were like
TI-83 plus.
Right?
TI-83 plus.
So technology over time makes everything cheaper. So in a true free market, and that's why people talk about in Bitcoin, right? There's a longer time period to see what's happening in Bitcoin, but the same thing's happening in Kaspa. Kaspa, in nominal terms, over the course of it'll be 4 years on the 7th Friday, is up 8,000% on Bitcoin, even with all these drawdowns. It's up 8,000%. And it's going to continue to experience that volatility because it's such a new asset. But we have a track record of what happens with the proof of work no pre-mined coin does in Bitcoin. So you can kind of see what that happens. So, the maxis get all upset and all that, but it's just like, for me, I'm not attached to it being Kaspa. There's probably going to be a couple other that we talked about this, right? There's going to be in the free markets. If Kaspa doesn't solve some problems, another product, something else is going to be, another currency is going to be launched in order to solve those problems.
Yep.
If you're somebody that's open to that and not attached to it and just seeing things for what they are, you're going to reap the rewards and the benefits of what it's like to understand. Because I see Bitcoin and I do see Kaspa as truth, like truth layers. And when you're operating and you're trading in the Bitcoin and the Kaspa and understanding what it is, that's how the wealth gets distributed to the people that provide value within that free market. And when you're holding this asset, you're living how, like the way I've been living, bro. Shit gets cheaper and cheaper for me every single year.
Yeah.
My lesson is like, okay, now if I use this, how can it really spread?
Yeah.
And I realize I have somewhat of a voice now that I've been running these spaces and I've been able to have some traction and build some relationships here on X. But that's what this is about, man. It's about, like, the education isn't there. People are, kind of like what you do. You're still measuring what this shit is from that. And you can't, bro. Like, there's literally cognitive dissonance. We can't measure anything that's. I say this, like, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, one Kaspa is one Kaspa.
For sure.
That's tough for you to understand when all you see is the dollar figures, and you're like, oh, Kaspa to fucking $1, Kaspa to $10, and then you think like, oh, let me hoard this shit because if I hoard it, when it eventually, Kaspa's gonna die off, Bitcoin's gonna die off if we don't use it. Period.
Right. But that's
and
it. Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct, and you're right. Like, I am looking at it in the duality, right? Like, I want to be in a place where, for instance, again, shouts, we got 20 Kaspa today, right? Which is beautiful. It costs 1.2 Kas to start the stream. All 21 Kas benefits the blockchain, right? It all goes right back because it's on layer 1, and that's something you can't do with Bitcoin. And even if it was cheaper to move Bitcoin, you still couldn't host a stream on the base layer, right? But when I look back, so one thing you said that I wanted to correct, but I didn't want to jump in. You said fair. And I'm not necessarily talking about fair. I'm just talking about the lack of need to print money. Because part of what they said is that, these guys are holding all the fiat, so they need to print more money. And while that's kind of true, there also is just an inequity in supply and demand, right? Like, people want more than they can sustain in paying in real time. That's why the credit system's fucked too. But I agree with you. Like, so it wasn't necessarily about fair. It was about helping to stimulate for the lack of need of printing. So don't hold all the money, give some back to the people. The people then put money into the economy so you don't have to print more. That's where I was coming at it there. I don't really care about haves and have-nots. Like, if you need to earn that shit, go fucking earn it for sure. But bringing it back to the people would help put it back into the economy is where I come from on that one. But yeah. So, but today, as of today, this 20 Kas is worth 20 Kas, right? Like you said. Specifically in the fiat world, it's worth 80 cents, right? Because it's down to 4 and change. So maybe it's worth 90 cents, right? Someday this 20 Cas will be worth $1,000. Right? Maybe it goes to 50 a coin and this 20 Cas is worth $1,000. And I'm pretty sure the great people at Vivor will understand those trends and the tips will come in, at 0.5 Cas. But no matter what, it's always going to benefit the blockchain or the block DAG. It's going to benefit the base layer of Kaspa to operate on this system, which, to your point, it just gives us as those who want to buck the system, i.e. YouTube and fiat, and create a new lane of sovereignty where you're not reliant on. Now, look, we're not going to come on here and play all the music and movies and stuff like that, and be on copyright things, right? We're not going to do that. We're not going to dip our toes too far past being lawless, right? But we can be sovereign,
Right.
So while I did have that idea, like, fuck it, now we can just play music at will. No, this company is at risk of being sued, right? Like, you cannot put Vivor at risk. We will be responsible creators. But we will tell people to go fuck themselves because that's fun, right?
Yeah.
And then you can come at me for that because I said it, right? But we can use this platform like a YouTube, like a Twitch. There's some great channels on here already. The Kaspa DJ, Slither's on here playing video games. Like, there's people doing things on here already, and we're going to be here doing this. And we're going to try to do this as consistent as possible to make sure that we continue to add to, most importantly, the Kaspa ecosystem, because with, like you said, if you don't use it, it dies. Mm-hmm. We are doing this because of the Kaspa community. There is such a great vibe and energy around, as we spoke about in the beginning of this, and maybe this is a good way to kind of land the plane here and sign off. We'll do a whole thing the way people usually do. But as mentioned in the beginning of the episode, right, when you look at your fallibilities, when you find your vulnerabilities and you discuss them and you're willing to work on them and you're willing to drive the perfections in your fallibilities to become more perfect, that's where success comes from. That's how Kaspa will grow. We have these conversations all the time on X. Bitcoin's better than Kaspa because Kaspa's a shit coin. Hey, Bitcoin, you're using Lightning now? That doesn't support the base layer. What does Bitcoin say? Go fuck yourself. But if Bitcoin goes, fuck, you're right, how can we use and support Lightning to then figure out our problems on the base layer? Most of the Kaspa community will be like, you know what? You're right. Let's help you. Let's help you get there. Let's get to that moment, right? And no one is willing to, again, as I do on the TW Takes podcast, sit in the truth and have the discussion on both sides. And it's not agree to disagree. It's a conversation of truth.
Right.
And my truth can make more sense than yours, but if they're both true, that's not agree to disagree. That's a holy shit, great point. I'll think about that too. You don't have to disagree with anyone. You can agree within the agreeing. Like, it's okay. I want to shout him out real quick. At Wicked whatever on Twitter, right? He is the most vocal Bitcoin guy. He breaks that shit down so good. I learned so much from him. And I even hit him back. I'm like, yo, I get kind of bummed out when you're an asshole. And he goes, I know. Like, I can tend to be that way. I'm an apple on Twitter, so I can talk shit to specifically when I feel like people are being stupid. And I'm like, I feel you, but you're so smart when you relay this information that, like, it'd be more helpful if you weren't. He goes, yeah, I get it. So, like,
wow, okay.
And how many? Well, okay. That's what I'm saying, right. So how many people haven't seen that side of him? But I knew
I've only seen him on Spaces. He sounds
great on Spaces, right? But then the attacks happen in the because he also said, like, he's tired of it, right? Like, it's exhausting. But one of his latest posts was about the fallibilities of Bitcoin and why, and he's fully transparent. He's like, I'm pot committed. This can't fail. Like, I need it to succeed. So allowing Kaspa to succeed he thinks is allowing Bitcoin to die, and that's just not true.
That's not true.
That's not true at all. So that's where we don't agree to disagree. We agree to agree, where it's like, hey, don't say Kaspa succeeding makes Bitcoin fail. Actually, Bitcoin succeeding helps Kaspa succeed, and then showing the positivities and what Kaspa brings, apply that to Bitcoin, and you're good. We can do this together. We can operate together. There's only going to be so many Kaspas. There's only going to be so many BTCs. And to be honest, I hate sats. I hate the term sats because it's what it is, it's pennies to dollars, right? You're breaking down the fiat into smaller units so other people can use it. And then what happens as that grows? The penny becomes worth less. They're not making any more. The nickel becomes worth less. They'll stop making those. The dollars, now we're on $5 units. It's going to happen with Bitcoin too, and it's a scary thing. So I say that all to say, if you operate in truth and you focus on your fallibilities, you have a better chance to succeed. And that's one of the reasons why we're here today, because you helped me see something inside myself. You held up the mirror, as you say, and I'm excited for this journey that we're gonna go on, brother.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah. This was fun. This is great. Just the beginning, man. And love the vibes. So cool that and I run the blockchain banter on Wednesday nights with Kara, and enjoy doing that, and getting on these spaces when I have a chance to get on them. And for me, it is about being on these spaces and having the civil conversations. Kind of, you mentioned Wicked, and I found him to be extremely intelligent, but then he comes back and bashes us and says we're trying to kill people. We're wrecking people's lives, and it's like, no, I've actually never told everybody, hey, go 100%
right
the Kaspa like I did. I'm just sharing with you what I'm doing, right? But to speak to exactly what you're talking about, I don't see a world where Bitcoin succeeds and Kaspa doesn't. They're two in the same, and again, I think a lot of these things are linked, but a lot of Bitcoiners specifically are very, very, and there's probably people on the Kaspa end that think this way too. But they're very, very attached to their narratives, and hey, they're protecting the bag.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I feel when I hear the toxicity. That's what that is. But I've also had conversations behind the scenes, and people are like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're talking about there. I didn't think about that before."
Yeah.
That's really what we're trying to bring to light here. I say this to my barber every time he trims up. I haven't gotten it trimmed to get it trimmed tomorrow, but I say it, hey, in Spanish. I go, "La vida no es tan seria." Life ain't that serious, bro. The purpose of the meaning of life is to live, man. That's it.
Hell yeah.
We gotta live, speak in truth, connect, and this money thing will take care of itself if we just speak the truth about it. That's the way I see it, bro.
Hell yeah. I just opened the tip jar one more time. Galone came through once again with another 5 cast with the LFG and the heart. So shouts.
Number one supporter right there.
Fuck yeah. Look, so Juan and I, we're not in it for the cash. We're not in it for the money. I'll tell you straight up, if it went that path, I'd be really fucking excited. But we'll never ask or beg for a cent. But we will continue to be here. And the great part about this particular situation happening right now, that 25 cast that just came through, that buys us 20 more streams. We can do this 20 more times just based off of that. So that tells me to tell Juan, we got to make this happen at least 20 more times, because that's what the tip jar told us to do. This is the energy, like you said, let's open it up and see what flows to us. And I think that's a beautiful sign right there, that just in 2 supporters alone, we have an opportunity to continue this conversation down the road. So speaking of, Juan, why don't you let everybody know where to find you, what to look for next, and how to get in touch if they're looking for a little bit of wisdom.
Absolutely. So on X, you can find my handles glitch in 888. Same on Instagram. I post a little bit more personal stuff, my yoga journey and whatnot on there. I have started posting my random raw thoughts on YouTube, just getting it out there, practicing, because I do think that there's a space for that, an opportunity for people to, again, not be scripted and just speak from the top. So those are one takes. I'm uploading it 5 to 10 minute videos of me rambling, just getting it out. So you can catch me there. Glitch in 888 on YouTube as well, and looking forward to continuing this with my man Bishop. So stay tuned here on Vivor. Yeah, man. So I do run the blockchain banter on Wednesday nights. That's 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. So that's blockchain banter on X Spaces on Wednesdays. So.
Hell yeah. That's awesome, brother. I'm so glad we did this. I go by Bishop on let's see. Let's just do X for now, at TW Takes Podcast. I also have twtakes.podcast.com. Just go there if you want to listen to any wrestling episodes. All the links to your streaming services are there. As this podcast grows and we figure out what we call it and we figure out which situation it'll be, we'll centralize it in a location. I mean, we haven't talked about this, but I just think that's the right move, is that we find a way to create an account where we both have access and we do the thing. As of now, we'll just keep it on the TW Takes Podcast channels, vivor.xyz/channel/TW Takes Podcast. Stay tuned to both of our Twitters to see when we're going. I think we're looking at Tuesdays at 11:30 is kind of going to be our window. But stay tuned. I do plan on uploading this. Again, haven't said this to Juan, but fuck it. I know that you'll agree with this because spreading the word is about, just making connections. I'll upload this to my podcast feed. I've recorded this down too. So Vivor is live stream only with clips. And because I'm on the creator channel, I can't make clips live. So if no one's in the watch, there won't be any clips to sustain. So I wanted to record it so we can put it